Greetings, everyone. Hello, this is Dave Meyer with BizzyWeb. So excited to have you all here today for our Busy Webinar. We do Busy Webinars once a month on the first Wednesday of the month, and today we're going to talk about growth-driven design. If you're a fan of the Brad Pitt and other movie, Moneyball, we feel like growth-driven design is like Moneyball for your website, and I'm going to be sharing why as we go through today's event. This is intended to be a semi-interactive event, and we have a lot of our favorite customers and fans online, so I would love it if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and chatting to me as part of the screen sharing today. So on the webinar, you can use the Q&A tool to go ahead and publish anything that you do have as far as notes or thoughts or comments. Would love to hear those from you as we go through. If you're new to BizzyWeb, and some of you are, so I'll give you a little bit of detail. BizzyWeb is a growth marketing agency. We're located in Champlin, Minnesota, and our team of 15 folks works on all of the things you see on screen here, whether that's web design, digital marketing, or inbound. The act of activating a lead for a client by attracting that person, by engaging that person with helpful and original content, and then delighting them by continually revisiting a customer relationship and automating through the relationship. So we are HubSpot agency certified partners. We're platinum partners actually with HubSpot. We're high impact partners with Google, and we have all kinds of experience with WordPress, with Constant Contact, with SEO, with everything that you need in order to drive traffic to your website, but then more importantly, to actually take that traffic and turn it into convertible leads. We mostly work with B2B businesses, and specifically I mean business to business businesses in either the business service industry or the manufacturing industry. So if you fall into that range, and or if you need to take your business to the next level, especially in this weird age of COVID where you can't meet in person and your sales team might be semi-grounded and not able to knock on doors and get windshield time anymore, we can absolutely help by directing that content. One other note before we get fully started, there's a lot more information on growth-driven design and on everything that we do at the BizzyWeb website. So I wanted to direct you over here. If you're looking at our homepage, or if you go to BizzyWeb.com, there's lots of information available in here. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and check us out at that account or that space, and you can refresh and look at what your website is doing as far as search engine optimization, and you can see some real results from our clients as well as other information and helpful details. We're going to be talking through growth-driven design, and if you go into services and then into growth-driven design, there's lots more information here about traditional web design versus growth-driven design, and there's some opportunities to download and to get additional information to kind of choose your own adventure on how you want to connect and keep up with the people that matter most to you. And by that, I mean your audiences. So that's what we do. In addition, I've been doing this for 20 years. BizzyWeb's been around for 20 years. And again, our small team out of Champlin has been doing this for a long time. And what we really love doing is working with companies that need to go from surviving into thriving. And we all need help with that right now, especially with COVID and all the things that are happening in the space. So go ahead and get a hold of us if we can help, or even if you just want to talk about getting to the next step or just brainstorming, because we love to help no matter what we can do for you, or if it's an engagement worth connecting, we just want to chat. All right, so why redesign your website at all? We all know that there's a lot of things that happen inside of website design. And so if your website just isn't doing its job anymore, that's probably a good lever for it's time to redesign your website. So if you're not getting any leads off of your website, if you notice that you're not showing up on searches in Google, maybe because your website is so hard to update that it's seemingly impossible to add new content to your website, and content is one of those key things. I travel the country normally on behalf of Google, and when I'm talking with people on Google's behalf, I always caution them to make sure that they need to keep their content up to date, because it's almost like a game of leapfrog when you're working with your customers and when you're engaging with Google to keep up to date. If you haven't updated your website in 4 to 5 years, then it's a long path to relevancy. And Google is going to rank you by how relevant your website is to any given search. So if you haven't looked at your website in a few years, there's probably a number of things, particularly around how mobile responsive it is, how good it looks on small mobile devices, and also just the other standards in website software, such as security, the SSL certificates, or in one case, we had a client that just redesigned a website, and they found out that their webmaster, the person that built it originally, left it at no index, no follow, which is essentially telling Google, hey, don't check our website. It's not ready for prime time yet. So they were turning away leads. And if you haven't looked at that in a long time, again, from our website on the homepage, you can run a quick overview of your website's performance, and it'll tell you if you have issues like that. So that's why to redesign your website. But let's talk about what you can do with growth-driven web design. First, with growth-driven design, you get a faster launch. What we do in growth-driven design is we don't have a massive project where we try to boil the entire ocean of your website. Instead, we pick just the most important parts of your website. It's probably your lead generation engine and a couple of things that are going to get you those leads and get them to react. We don't need to have all of the tools completely finished at launch, because that's the beauty of the web. If you're out and you're connecting and you're getting something, it's much better. It's also cheaper, and it's faster to get up and live. So on the image that you see on the screen, the traditional world of web design is highlighted in blue. You have your website, you wait 1.5 to 2 years until you're super frustrated, and then you say, okay, the heck with it, I'm going to redesign my website. It takes 6 months to redesign that site, and then you see a launch in productivity. But then you wait another couple of years and you're getting decreasing results over that 1.5 to 2 years until, again, you're so frustrated that you wait, and then you say, okay, the heck with it, I'm going to do a massive redesign again. And so then you go up to H2. In growth-driven design, you start off with a small site that gets initially launched, and then you're right up in marketing right away. And then we keep making incremental improvements. And the space that you see in gold with the lines is the option, or is the additional opportunity that you're going to see by not wasting all that time and effort in doing a massive redesign and trying to get everything perfect immediately. It's a great way to minimize your challenges. So if you have a number of things that you're trying to get done with, why not continually update your website every month and break things down into little bites? You know, the old adage is, what's the best way to eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. What's the best way to develop a website? 1 month at a time. And so we focus on setting up new goals and learning as we go to continually improve what we do with our clients. And so continuous improvement is a huge part of that. It also makes it very easy when you're building your website to integrate that site with both marketing and sales. When you're trying to build an ongoing relationship with a customer, with a potential prospect, you need to have both sides of the world inside of your business talking. Your sales team needs to be telling you, as marketers, these are great leads, or these leads aren't quite matching up. So marketing's job is to create MQLs, or marketing qualified leads, that match a specific set of rules. They need to be in a certain industry, they need to be of a certain size, they need to be a certain kind of person. Then from MQLs, the sales team needs to verify those leads by contacting them, and that turns them into sales qualified leads. What you're looking for is the most amount of sales qualified leads in your business, and the only way to do that is to continuously learn and update your connections and your website as you go ahead. So what we want to walk through today is the 5 keys to growth-driven design. And I'm going to walk you through some things on here. We have a lot of content, so I'm going to talk kind of fast. But again, if you do have specific questions, I would love to hear those from you. And we would love to keep up and connect as we go. I am noticing that there's a chat. And so just checking my chat, it says, ouch. Oh, yep. Hey, Dave, good to see you. So I completely agree. You know, that's one of the things. If you want to chat with me and keep up, Dave's a great client of ours, and we're super excited to be working with them on some big things. So our agenda then, first we're going to set some goals for your business. And we're going to talk about specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based goals, SMART goals. And then we're going to talk about who needs to be on a growth-driven design team. And whether we're going to brainstorm for some change, we're going to go through what sprint meetings are and what they do. If you're familiar with the idea of project management and how things work, having sprint meetings inside of that versus a traditional waterfall, to have a all-encompassing project management tool that lets you brainstorm from all sides and to keep up in a sprint is very helpful. And then dashboarding, how to keep yourself on task. If you're familiar with things like Traction or EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, relies very heavily on dashboards so that you can know at a glance how your marketing, how your business, how everything that matters to your business is faring, and to be able to track and adjust as things go ahead. So we're going to talk about dashboards as well. That's what we're going to go through today, and I hope this is helpful. So let's get started. First, what you need to do is set some goals. Those goals, as you look at your business, need to be very specific to the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. Now, most of us are trying to make money, right? Which for B2B businesses generally generally means creating or cultivating more leads. If you're not cultivating those leads, if you're not getting more connections, that's really hard to grow your business. Don't be fooled by marketing organizations or marketing companies or the internal need to just prove some activity. You don't really care how many people visit your website. What you care about is how many qualified people visit your website and how engaged do they get in your process. So I don't want 10,000 people visiting my website every day unless those 10,000 people are actually ready and willing to do business with me. So same thing with like Facebook likes or with a Google ad campaign. I can drive tons of traffic, and it's super easy to drive traffic to a website. The key is getting the right people to your website. So you want to make sure that your outcomes are specific to your business. And yes, making money is a big goal, but then you have to figure out what goal inside of that, back up a step and say, okay, well, how do we make money? Well, we make new sales. How do we make sales? Well, we get qualified leads. How do we get qualified leads? Well, and what is that for you? You get new form fills. You have more engagements on social media with the right kinds of people, right? So out of all of that, how does your website fit in to the grand scheme of things? Generally, your website is going to be the foundation upon which everything else is built. Facebook can't take away your website. Google can't change the algorithm and not show your website, although you certainly need to keep up with Google's rules in order to stay ranking correctly. But that's the one thing that you completely 100% own. So your website fits in as the baseline on all of this. What metrics really matter? Is it converted leads? Is it MQLs? Is it SQLs? You don't want to get too advanced and set yourself up for failure by coming up with something that you need to take 5 or 6 steps in order to accomplish. So again, you want to go back far enough in your sales process to something that you can actually impact. And then you want to make those goals SMART. SMART goals, of course, mean that they're specific, that you've got something definitely set. A good SMART goal is that you've done some specific thing. I want 13 more qualified leads per month over the course of the next year, instead of, I just want more money. More money is not specific enough. Measurable, again, more money is not measurable because what does more mean, right? So you have to set a specific number or a specific achievement or something that you can do. I want people to be happier when I leave my website. Not measurable unless you're doing a very kind of froofy form at the end, right? Achievable. They need to be something that you can actually accomplish. If you are looking and say, I want my blog to get to the #1 spot of Google, if your business is brand new or if you've never blogged before, that's going to be a little bit unachievable right now. And so you want to focus on what you can actually do. what are some things that you can take as baby steps before you start walking and then start running? And then they, of course, need to be realistic, meaning that to get to $1 billion next month is definitely possible, but probably not on the budget that you've set and probably not in that time frame. If you say, I need $1 billion by next month, that's doable if you're Apple, not exactly doable if you're a small mom and pop shop. And then, of course, the last part of SMART is that it needs to be timely. You need to set your goal in a realistic time frame. A good time frame is generally at least monthly. If you have something that's very tactical, you might be able to go all the way down to week. Daily is pretty hard, but quarterly is another common goal for bigger ship turns that you're trying to make. But annually is probably too far, right? So to say, I need 17 new leads over the next year, well, you're definitely going to need to break that down into something that's more timely than annual, because by the time that year is out, if you missed it, it's too late and you're just not around anymore. So figure out what that time frame is. There's a method to setting SMART goals. So what you want to do is ask yourself a bunch of these questions. And we have a template that's available for download. You're going to get an email as part of this that's going to have the ability to do this. So if you've registered, thank you, congratulations. You're going to get a link to SMART goals as part of this. But some questions: what is your overall goal? So what are you trying to achieve? Again, more money, but then start taking steps back into something that you can actually focus on and impact as a marketer or as a sales team leader. And then what are the needs of the marketing team inside of that? Again, remember, put a specific number on that goal. And if you don't hit that number, so what? You're just setting a line in the sand, and then you can adjust that barometer as you move forward, right? To say we need 15 new leads this month. If you get to 14, well, that's good. You still got 14 that you wouldn't have had before, right? So set that number, and then maybe you're going to need to adjust it to say, you know, we thought we were going to get 15. We only got 5. So let's focus on getting 5 and make this 7 next month so that we're not killing ourselves. Goals that are too lofty can be self-defeating. Analyze the current situation that you're in. Again, you need to be realistic inside of your goal setting. If you've never published a blog before, or if you've never published a video, or if you don't have a sales team that's been doing this lead generation and can take those SQLs and close them, you know, you need to be realistic and say, okay, well, we need to take baby steps. So work the numbers, calculate the increase. We have a tool, again, that you can help you work those numbers, and then figure out your time frame, how much time you have, and then work through what that biggest challenge is. As you look at that SMART goal, what is going to be the deal killer here? What are we up against realistically, and how do we know that, you know, we're going to be able to surmount that goal? Next up, you need to look at your team. So navigate through the transition by developing the right people inside of the team. And I'm going to talk more about team in a little bit, but you need to really think and make sure that everyone on your team not only has the right attitude or mindset, but has the right skill, and that your team is set up to manage this appropriately, right? So in agile project management, you're constantly brainstorming and going through specific ideas, and you're having scrum meetings or connections to just basically rapidly prototype and transform. If you have someone that's very, very process oriented, that might not be in their skill set, right? So having a growth-driven design website and continually redesign something, if you have someone that really lives for consistency, it's going to be tougher. But at the same time, you can't just wither away. So you need to do something. So that you might need to work with that person to either coach them up or to help them on set. Very easy to train skills, harder to refocus mindset. So you probably want to hire mostly for culture and for attitude fit over making sure that the person has, you know, they have to at least have some working knowledge. You know, if they've never spoken English before, it might be tough to have them correctly author a whole bunch of blog posts. But SEO isn't hard as long as you're at least cognizant of the English language and can understand some of the simple goals and some of the simple tactics to help you rank better. So As far as mindset, we found that people in general need to be curious and creative problem solvers. I like to call it professional tinkerers. If you're always thinking, well, how can I do that a little bit better? Or what if, or how about we do it this way? You're going to have a lot of success with growth-driven design. If again, however, you have someone that needs their existing set, you know, they're there to punch a clock, they're there to get exactly what you tell them to do done, and they don't want to have any part of that, you know, there's a lot of value in an organization for that, but marketing and specifically building a growth-driven design website and being the content provider of that website might not be the right fit. You need to be able to collaborate. You need to have empathy because you need to get into other people's heads in order to figure out how can I connect and grow that organization. And you need to adapt something of a scientific methodology. We're setting hypotheses in growth-driven design. Like this month, we really want to get more leads in this thing. So our hypothesis is if we do these 4 things, it's going to improve. And then you guess and you say, okay, well, this is what I want to do, right? And so having that ability to be a professional tinkerer, to be a professional scientist, and have fun with the ability to learn is going to be incredibly helpful. As far as skills, again, you're going to need people that can actually do some of this stuff, but you know, data analysis is common. And that might be a space where that person that needs to always dot their I's and cross their T's and follow a specific rule book can go in. So to analyze data, you just need to go in and you need to look at it and you need to run the report and you need to report back, right? Conversion rate optimization, you're looking at a much broader set of skills and you need to connect with people and have that empathy. Persuasive copywriting, of course, you need a good writer. But it also needs to be written such that both people can ingest that and be swayed by that information, but SEO, all of the algorithms, Google's Googlebot needs to be able to see that as well. And so you need to kind of write technically and persuasively at the same time without having it sound forced or weird. It's definitely an art form. User-centered design to focus on the actual user and what is their skill set, what is their mindset. We don't want to focus on who we are with our website. We want to focus on we meet your needs, customer. And so you need to do a lot of getting into the personas or the marketing personas that you're building for your customers and write directly to them. Nobody cares how many years you've been in business. Nobody cares how many titles or training certificates you have. What they care about is, can you help me? Do you understand my problem, my need, and can you build it? Website usability, you need to know that stuff, and that's very technical. You need to have alt tags and specific usability metrics and stuff, so you need to be cognizant of that. Audience and research data, and of course be familiar with the agile process of managing a project. In order to have great success inside of growth-driven design, I would recommend the following roles. And I'm going to walk through each of these folks in a moment. But in general, you need to have a strategist, and they're going to be probably the main point person for your project, probably the project manager. Usually these are the people that are coming up with the go forward plan and setting your compass. The designer is the person who puts it on paper or in bits and bytes. The analyst is checking in to make sure that everything's happening. The SEO and pay-per-click people are authoring and optimizing the content so that it shows up well in those search bots. Content people are developing that information and making sure that all the text fits in. And then you need a developer to actually make all of the bits and bytes work and to optimize the conversion rates and build things as they go. So let's walk through one by one. And again, I want to make sure that we have some opportunities for people to ask questions. So probably easiest for me, if you wouldn't mind just using the chat function, but we have a lot of people on the webinar today. So if you have something that's popping and you have a question, would love to take that because I guarantee someone else is thinking about that as well. So let's get into our roles. First, strategist. The strategist is the main point person for your project. Their responsibilities include setting up the tasks and priorities. Brad Pitt's character in Moneyball, right? So he's responsible for making sure that we're heading towards a specific goal. Sales and marketing, you need to manage that alignment. So generally, this is a chief revenue officer. Sometimes this is the VP of sales or of revenue or of marketing, depending on whatever that top role designs for driving. It might be the CEO of your company, depending on how big you are and what the genuine proclivities of the people in your team include. They need to have some familiarity with project management and making sure that every task is on task and that the team is actually moving in the right direction. Need to have great communication, of course. And then in general, and for us, the strategist is responsible for the dashboard. So they're responsible for making sure that people are filling out things. You can think of this as the high-level manager. And so depending on the size of your organization, you might have a strategist that's the CRO that's setting specific guidelines. But then at the same level, you have a project manager who is responsible for making that real. In traction, that might be the difference between the visionary and the integrator, right? So the person that comes up with those high-level guidelines and tasks and the person that makes sure that that all happens. And then we dig a little deeper and we get into the analyst. Analysts look at what that data is doing. So they're looking at how people are using your website. They're looking at Hotjar. They're looking at heat maps. They're looking at the Google Analytics and the other details that they're getting out of SEMrush or other places. They're doing A/B testing inside of Google Ads or inside of other levers. They're looking at the reports in HubSpot and making sure that everything works. So as things come through, these are the people that are responsible for making sure the numbers are working and that they're trending in the right direction. The designer is responsible for making sure that creatively everything looks good. They're where the rubber hits the road as far as making sure that it's actually happening. So they're designing the web pages. They're responsible for branding, the colors, imagery, and making sure that users are engaged. So they're sourcing those images that are designed to connect and to make a real impression on the people that matter most. They're probably also responsible for coming up with the ideation of the advertising and that imagery inside of the content. And then they're working closely with the SEO and pay-per-click people, as well as the content people and the developer. Now we're getting a little more technical, but we come into our SEO people. SEO, search engine optimization, the people that know the ins and outs of Google and what needs to happen. They're responsible for the image tags, the alt tags, the H1, H2, H3 tags, submitting and resubmitting the keyword lists, setting up and disavowing the dead links on your website or the 404s, and doing 301 redirects around to the right content, looking for duplicate content and eradicating that content, and cross-linking and interlinking so that your website becomes a tremendously helpful, useful tool for people that are looking for your content, and therefore you're getting rewarded in Google because of your hyper usability. You want to make sure that every page is optimized, look at keywords and groups. These are the people that are looking at Google Trends to optimize and ideate for additional things on the horizon. You know, what haven't we thought about? Where are we pivoting into? What do we need to include when we're trying to reach specific people? And then they might also be advertising to drive specific people. You know, the cool part about advertising, especially pay-per-click, is you can target exactly who, exactly when, and exactly with what messaging you need in order to connect the right people at the right time with the right message. It's always a good idea to do A/B testing or to have two versions of any given ad or any given content and see which one performs best. And that's where growth-driven design really shines, in that you're constantly learning and improving as you go. That's that little uptick that keeps happening as you go up market, instead of just massive redesign, let it stagnate. Massive redesign, let it stagnate. Little improvements over time make a huge difference in results. Then you have content. These are the people that actually make things go. They're driving the runs in. They're setting things in. These are the RBIs, right? So they're getting those run bases and building that forward. You want to make sure that you're using the props. You're editing copy to align with your goals. What is that goal? What is your marketing persona? What is your sales persona? And what are those people reacting to? Your goal is to create engaging information that's gated and guided so that you're drawing people along almost like on a choose your own adventure campaign. On average, especially in B2B, people are visiting up to 80 websites before they ever click to connect with a business, whether they submit a form or they call or they text. So you need to fill that website, all of your social, all of your marketing with the content that's designed to engage and to connect people at that higher level. You're looking for blog editorial calendars and for content, social media posts, for email campaigns, everything that you need to do in order to get people to that next step. Content is king in social media. Without content, you don't have anything. Google doesn't have anything to index against. People don't have any context to know if you can help them. Your goal is to have people that can fill that up and make it all engaging and informative. Next, developer. The developer is responsible for giving you all of the actual stuff, right? So they make it all happen. Your designer gives them the screenshots and the sketches of what needs to happen. The SEO person's talking about, okay, well, semantically, this is what needs to happen. The content gives you all the words. The developer puts all of that together into one beautiful and amazing and constantly updated website, right? So they're implementing those edits. They're creating efficiencies inside of the website. They're looking at things and saying, this website's, or this page is a little slow. It might be because we have a video on here, so we need to optimize this video. Or maybe the image is too big. Or maybe there's something else happening on the website that's asking or requesting too many things. A lot of folks develop with drag and drop website themes. And that's great, well and good for rapidly prototyping websites, but it makes websites incredibly code heavy. And the more code, the more junk on a website, the slower it is. So if you have a slick little sports car and you hook a 70-foot boat to the back of it, it's not going to be able to carve through the canyons and get you where you want to go. Same thing if you have a slick little sports car and you just have a couple of suitcases in the trunk, you're going to be able to zip through and have an enjoyable ride and actually get where you're going, right? The developer is responsible for making sure that that's what happens. You're going to create those pages, implement changes, and set it all up. So how do you do all this stuff? Well, when we back up, what you need to do is brainstorm through the process. Brainstorming could seem simple, but just kicking everything out onto a big whiteboard, dragging it together. We can't really whiteboard that much right now because we're all stuck in this together inside of COVID. But you just need to list out what's happening. You want to focus on what the problem areas are. If you're going back to the strategy, to the SMART goal that you're trying to accomplish, the topics and items and content and updates that you're making need to serve the ultimate goal. So yes, could you do something with a YouTube campaign, or could you hire and get a broadcasts campaign where you're doing radio ads or hiring a clown to come out and tap dance on the freeway in front of your business? Sure, all of that stuff might happen, but not all of those things are actually going to help you guide towards your goal. So you need to get your ideas out there. And you can have the tap dancing, clown idea, but you need to rank the quality of those ideas after you get the ideas out and learn from what's happening. If people have really interesting ideas and they're kind of out there, what could you take away from that in the real world and bring it back? So, maybe you don't have the dancing clown on the freeway, but you have some sort of an interactive ad or something where you're popping through and breaking through the noise in some other way. Common things to get around brainstorming exercises and bring things out include SWOT analyses, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and listing all of those things for any given thing. the 5 whys. So simply asking, okay, well, what do we need to do? We need more money. Why? We need more money because we need to pay our people. Well, why? Okay, well, we need to pay our people because they like eating. Why? Blah, 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 blah. So backing it up. In our case, for marketing, we need to have a great ad campaign. Why? Because our ads are going to connect directly with the people that we're trying to reach. Well, why? The people that we're trying to reach are, and then you list out all of the topics and analyses. You can also do mind mapping or just do core content, and then just do physical lines out and ideate all the topics that might lead into any given piece of content. And we talk about in another BizzyWebinar, content pillars, and the idea that there's all kinds of ways around and topics that relate to the core topic. If you're a manufacturing business and you're trying to get more information or get more leads around a specific type of problem, you might want to ideate and look at all of the related searches that people are making around this. Google actually does a really good job at this. Search for your keyword, one of the key things that you're looking for. So say you're a contract manufacturer, you're going to look at short run manufacturing, and scroll down to the bottom of that Google page. Look at what shows up on the Google page, but scroll down to the bottom and look at related searches. And that's going to give you a massive amount of other topics that you might want to include. And if you have all of those topics and you relate them all together, you're showing Google not only that you own every side of that argument, you're also showing them that you are a great source for all of the different suggestions that Google was giving them. So guess what? You're going to rank higher. Super easy. Easy in a relative way, right? So now what? Okay, so you need to look at your situation right now. Growth-driven design might not be for you right now if you're simply struggling to have a website at all, right? So if you need something, maybe you need to focus on the launch pad of a website and just get out something, and then look at when you have additional budget, when you get more leads in. If you're struggling to keep your head above water, maybe it's not time to grab a couple of barbells and start swimming around, right? But look at where you're at, and then start to look at baby steps, ways that you can improve the user experience that you can do. Maybe speeding up one part of your website, maybe speeding up one piece of content. Look at your user behaviors. You can use Google Analytics to identify for your audience, what are people actually doing? Do people mostly go to your homepage and then check out the case studies on your website? Or do they go to the About Us? Or do they go right to frequently asked questions? If there's one frequently asked question that people are hitting 9 times out of 10, you're not answering that question early enough, and you need to get that back on the homepage. Your website is not Where's Waldo. You need to clearly identify who you're trying to reach and what they're looking for. And so for your best customer, what are the key issues that they're trying to solve? Make it as easy as possible for them to identify that you can solve that problem and get them right to the next step. And that'll help you identify what your bounce rates are, how many people are going to your website and then saying, I give up and leaving, or how many people are actually following some sort of a deeper interaction with you. Go back to your SMART goals, brainstorm through and look out through all of the other ideas that you could have. And again, there's no bad ideas, and keep things on the table or maybe the parking lot for things that are a little bit too far out there. But keep an eye on those out there ideas, because they might be pointing at some new tool or some new approach that maybe your competition hasn't even thought of. And so you can have some sliver and start using that as a wedge to start driving and getting a lot more content, a lot more interactivity, and a lot more business by being unique in the marketplace. Organize your ideas into useful groups and create your plan. As you look at action items, there's 4 categories that all of our content typically pops into. Just got in a question, what do you mean speed up one part of your website? So maybe your homepage is a little bit slow, and so you want to optimize all of the images on that page so that it loads faster. If you note that people are getting to a specific page and then they're leaving right away, there's 2 things happening. Either they're getting frustrated because they have to wait too long, or they're not finding the information that they're looking for. So try to redirect the calls to action and or enhance the performance of that page. And you need to kind of do this page by page in a website. And that's where the growth-driven design methodology makes it easy, because you can just bite off little bites and improve things little by little over time. So as you grow the areas of focus, you're looking at categories like boosting conversion. So how do you get people to do more of what you want them to do, right? So are you looking at how many people are bouncing off of the page? How many people don't click anything, or how many people aren't clicking what we want them to click? And what are the things that we can do in order to get them to do more? Maybe changing the color of a call to action button. Maybe changing the text. Instead of saying click here, say grow your business, or talk directly about solving that problem. Next one, improve user experience. Maybe the site is confusing, or maybe there's a blog layout that has something on the right and something on the left and a little narrow text box, and people don't want to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Or maybe it doesn't look right on mobile devices. So looking at what all of that is and seeing how you can improve it. A great web design partner will help you across all of the UX, the user experience options. Personalization. This is where a tool like HubSpot can come in incredibly handy. With a HubSpot built website, you can actually have people visit your homepage on your website or respond to a piece of marketing and learn something about that person. Say they're typically, they meet one of your core data sets. They're one of your marketing personas, right? So manufacturing Mary is looking for specifically 4 things. If you know that you have a Mary on your hands and she's interested in manufacturing specific things, the next time and the next page they visit on your website could be completely customized to her experience and her needs. So that's incredibly helpful. Managing and marketing your calls to action, your content offers tailored based on interest. If someone's searching in the UK versus the US, you could even change the text on the website to include OUR or aluminium, whatever that might need to be, and be very, very hyper-focused on what that user is expecting. And then building your assets. We all have specific tools and content and things that we need to work on, but the more information that you give and the more options that you give your customers in their own choose their own adventure, the more likely they are to take that next step. And what you're trying to do is be as useful as possible to as many people as possible, and just get them one step further in the purchase process. Solve their problems, answer their questions, set them at ease, and make yourself seem to be the one possible solution to all of their problems and needs. And of course, you don't need to boil the ocean. You just need to be something very focused on what you do for your business. But it should be clear from the content on your website, from the answers or from the questions that you answer, and from everything that you do, that you are the solution to what they're looking for. Tactically, I want to back up a second and just kind of share one of the things that you're going to do inside of growth-driven design is have a lot of sprint meetings. This is Agile project management. If you're familiar with Agile, this is what we do at BizzyWeb. And this is what makes growth-driven design easy to connect and interact with and integrate, and it helps you to learn and change fast, right? So you're going to look at where your tasks are, ask for help, everyone brainstorms, and you can hand off tasks seamlessly between team members. Okay, well, I'm struggling with the look and feel of this website. SEO person is saying, it looks like it looks like people aren't looking at this. The usability is weird. Designer goes back and says, okay, well, I can redesign and get you some new buttons, maybe add some different content, right? The analyst was gonna look and say, I'm looking at our heat maps, and it looks like people click on the home button, they scroll down about halfway, and then they just give up and they leave. How can you make that next spot a little bit more enticing? Maybe you need to have a pop-up that happens that answers the question that your customers are asking, right? So what is that? And then you're going to go through that, determine the next items to tackle and rank them, and then assign out that workload. For a good sprint meeting, here's what we do. The strategist shares the list of backlog tasks. Here's all of the things that we've identified previous. We're going to review the focus for the current time period. We're trying to get more leads in this X thing. That's your SMART goal, right? Discuss the updates that might change. Review current tasks and capacity. Okay, well, we need to have this, but we don't have enough time to get it all the way through because Mary's going to be on vacation the next 2 weeks. So we're going to have to move that one out and share something that Mary isn't necessary for. And then team members volunteer for tasks based on ability and capacity. For best results, you just keep coming back for more. So a growth-driven design process is a monthly website redesign. You're never done with the growth-driven web design or with a growth-driven site. What instead you're doing is you're constantly improving and learning and making your experience better for your customers. So you're going to have weekly and bi-weekly meetings depending on what that connection is. You're going to share your task list, report your progress, and you just need to keep coming back and keep doing more and learning. It's not necessarily easy, but neither is business. You need to keep up. And if you want to be hyper proactive at making sure your marketing is hitting the mark, you can't just throw out a couple of tactics and come back 2 years later and see if it worked. You need to constantly be adjusting your tack. If you're flying from New York to LA, the pilot doesn't lock in their coordinates and take a nap. There's constant and millions of little adjustments that the computer or the pilot is making along the way. The wind's blowing them a little bit. The altitude is changing. The barometric pressure is adjusting things. And so all of that needs to happen, but you're going to keep moving toward your goal by learning and adjusting. You need to rinse and repeat. Keeping track of all this is easy with a dashboard. So dashboards are generally a great spot where everyone is connecting, and it lets you see at a glance what's happening. Is our goal being met? Are we hitting enough of our must-haves? And are we green, yellow, or red with our performance? So you set your baselines and say, if we're green, we're rocking. We thought we needed 10 new leads and we're getting 15. That's fantastic. If we thought we needed 10 and we got 10, then we're probably kind of yellowish. We're meeting expectations. If we thought we needed 10 and we're only getting 2, that's red, and you need to focus on that. And that helps you at a glance identify, okay, well, we're not converting in this particular part. And so this is where we need to focus to improve. So as you build through this, there's some fundamental assumptions that you need to make here. You need to take your buyer personas and journeys through the following fundamental assumptions. First, you need to understand what their actual needs are. There's a great tool that HubSpot has called makemypersona.com. You can actually build out your own persona. It's something that we do in our strategic game plans for our customers when we get started. But you want to identify who that person is. What are their personal demographics? What are their market psychographics? Who are they? What makes them tick? What makes their job, or what makes them successful in their job? What's going to lead to them getting promoted and therefore being super excited about working with you again the next time, right? The old adage was nobody ever got fired for using IBM, right? What is that for your business? You want to look at the frequently asked questions that people are always asking. If you have something that you're simply not answering, or you're fielding calls and people are always asking, well, what's the price? Or something else like that, coming up with some way to answer that question can be incredibly helpful and help you quicker qualify or disqualify good or bad leads. So a lot of time we spend a lot of time, especially in sales, chasing down leads that are just never going to happen. Wouldn't you rather just know and focus on finding the next person that's actually going to be a good fit, rather than wasting a couple of months trying to convince somebody that it's never going to work with you, right? So focus on that. Know your channels. Social media is great for kind of broad reach. LinkedIn is pretty good for B2B businesses and for folks that are looking at their journey and trying to make business decisions. Facebook is kind of more personal. Instagram is even more personal. Snapchat is even more personal and a little younger. TikTok is, even younger than that and much more creative. What are those levers that are going to get you where you need to go? In general, for most of our customers, there's usually some element of Google and search engine optimization, probably some Google ads, and probably some social media advertising of some sort. So your communication channels and connecting, and then also making sure that you're sending out email. Email is one of the unsung heroes of all business communication. We still have emails. Even if you're on Slack and you're not ever checking anything, you're still connecting and you're subscribed to a number of things that you probably didn't even realize until you really look at it. Your communication channels need to cover all bases, and then focus on what works best and do more of that. Refine your messages to keep optimizing, and that's the entire point of growth-driven design. Goals. The company strategy determines your goals. So design plays to build out what you're doing and figure out, okay, so for this next month, we are going to have the following plays. We're going to build out the service page so that people understand here are the services that we make. We're going to create and deepen our deepen our engagement with our case studies, and we're going to flesh that out a little bit more, maybe add some videos in there, and whatever that else is. We're going to do a Google ad campaign to drive traffic with the exact people. So identify some plays and then set those KPIs to measure that play. Again, green, yellow, red. Are you hitting your numbers? Are you missing your numbers? Are you holding steady? What is that? And then you want to focus on your measurement, not only for that month, but are your trends improving over time? You're going to have some ups and some downs, especially in this past quarter. It's been a wild ride for most of our customers. They've been way up and then way down, and everything seems to be different and changing constantly. You just need to stay the course and keep learning. Yes, there are some big things that are changing in today's market, but not everything. And so focus on that and where you're going. You need to have baseline data. So look at, ideally when you start, you're going to have some Google Analytics data that you can look at. What are the pages that are converting? Set your goals, and you want to improve by a certain amount. It needs to be smart. It needs to be realistic. And so you don't want to go to, I want to increase 10,000%. You want to say, I want to increase 5% every month, or 5% every quarter. It's going to be different for every business and for every market cap, right? Apple just came out as the most valuable company in the entire world, added between 1 trillion just a year ago to 1.83 trillion. That's probably not realistic for most of us. But when you look at specific things and improving things, you just want to set a barometer that you as your organization can accomplish. A lot of times we underestimate the potential of small changes and overestimate the potential of big changes. So we tend to underestimate what can happen in a year, but overestimate what can happen in a week. So I want 10 new leads next week. Probably not going to happen. But I want 5 new leads every week. That's going to be 60, or that's going to be, I shouldn't have done one that I couldn't do. It's going to be like 10,000 leads or 1,000 leads, right? 1,200 actually. So you need to have source data in order to build that. So each month, look at all of those information bits that's coming from your Google Analytics, that's coming from your form fills, that's coming from your marketing qualified leads or MQLs, your sales qualified leads, your SQLs, and then what's working. We're seeing a lot of traction for sales leads in this industry. We're resonating somehow there. We want to do more of that, right? If something's working, do more of it. If something's not working, let that be a cautionary word to say, okay, well, maybe this isn't something that we want to focus on. One of the biggest things that a lot of our clients tend to get distracted by is, well, we're not reaching this particular thing, or Facebook is just not working for us. So I want to double down and figure out what Facebook's going to do, so how we can make it work. Facebook might just not be for you. If you're getting 10 times the amount of leads from LinkedIn, do more with LinkedIn. You're going to get a much better response. And again, you need to scorecard it. So have it all in there. You need to understand your progress at a glance. That's where your monthly meetings for sure are going to sit. You need to look at this data as often as makes sense to keep a handle on it and to be able to turn the ship, to make those micro corrections to make sure that you stay on course. Once a year is too long. Once a day is probably not, or is probably too frequent, unless it's for something very small and you just want to make sure that you're hitting, you know, I need at least 2 calls every day or whatever, right? So know what to work on next. To recap, you need to set your goals. They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. They need to be smart, right? You need to have the right team. You need to have your analysts. You need to have your designer, your SEO person and pay-per-click person, your content, and your developer. All of those people need to have a good fit for aptitude and talent. So you need to hire and place for the right kind of person or the right kind of outlook on life, as well as the right skills. And you need to balance that. Brainstorm, keep that up. Your monthly and weekly meetings need to keep looking at, well, what else can we do? What have we learned? And that's what sprint meetings are for. Keep it all in a dashboard and keep measuring and connecting. That's where you're going to start seeing massive results. My son's a high school swimmer. They don't just throw the kids in the pool and say, hey guys, do your best. They look at their lap times and they need to be improving every single week, or they know that something's wrong. If you're not measuring, you're not marketing. So make sure that you're focusing on setting a realistic base. Don't panic if you don't hit it. What that means is that you're learning. You just identified something that's not working. You want to focus on something that does. If you need more, go into our free ebook. This is going to be an introduction into growth-driven design. Everyone that registered is going to get an email for this. If you didn't get that email, you can connect with me at dave@BizzyWeb.com. I'll have my email address up in a second again, but you'll get an email if you registered for this event with lots more information on growth-driven design. You can download that, use it, and if you want help, of course, let's talk. Next month, we're going to talk about how to finish the year strong. Unbelievable, but we're already getting into that final quarter, and we need to help you. So in order to finish the year strong, we're going to talk about how you can get to the next level in your business. And that's largely by measuring and making improvements and maybe knocking something loose that you hadn't looked at before. We're in a very different world right now. And so we've been working a lot on helping our clients jumpstart, do some different changes, some additions. We're all coming back to school. What that usually means for businesses is that we're back to networking. We're back to in-person. That's not going to happen this year. So how are you taking advantage of what you would have done in person, either on sales connections or on making some sort of, trade show or expos or whatever? If you were going to do a show and that show's canceled, what are you doing to keep the leads coming in? Let's help. If you need to get a hold of me, here's how to reach me. I'm at dave@BizzyWeb.com. Again, this is what I do for a living, and I love helping people. If you need a hand, if you need to just brainstorm, if you want to connect, either myself or Trigvi on my team or Ryan on my team can walk you through the basics and help you get to that next step. I hope this helped you get to where you need to go. And most importantly, I hope this helped you generate buzz without getting stung. Right at the top of the hour, if you have any questions, go ahead and send it to me at dave@BizzyWeb.com. Thank you so much and have a fantastic week. We'll see you next month for Back to the Future.